Well, hey, Soul Fam. This is Michelle with Upgrade in Progress. It's been a couple months, I think, since I last made a video, and I'm not sure why. I don't think I really had much to share that was different than what I've already done, which is kind of sharing some verbally and then my smoga sessions and light language, which, by the way, a lot has evolved, and I may just kind of tumble back into it. But um, this video, honest to goodness, is really just for me. I have been doing, I am doing exceptionally well. And the truth is I am living my best life. And that really is just my truth. And I'm doing really well. But the reason I wanted to make this video is because of, like I said, it's for me. It's for me to just share and kind of get it out, because as I've said before, I live alone, and I do have some folks that I talk to, but not a lot of people understand my perspective. I know many do, but the majority do not. And it is in and of itself, sort of recognizing and stating out loud what is going on, at least in my world, from my perspective. I am not going to attempt to interpret what the hell is happening in this world right now. But again, the reason I wanted to do this was to just sort of purge and share what it is that's going on inside of me, because I see the insanity in the outside world. Trust me, I'll see it. But I didn't pay attention to it. I was able to stay above it. Kind of like they call holding the frequency, just doing what I needed to do to take care of myself, to stay in high vibration and to stay in love. And that's what I mean by I'm doing fabulous, because I've almost perfected that. And then, the last month happened, and what I mean by that is I just wanted to share a little bit about my own emotional trigger, because part of my work and what I've been doing is I've been working deeply, deeply, deeply on myself. And so pretty much most of my triggers were gone. Especially anything outside of me was not triggering me. I could be like, okay, there it is. So the mandatory mask has been a huge trigger for me. And I needed to examine that. Like, I recognize that I see almost everybody, and I'm not going to say everybody, but it seems to me like a lot of people have a trigger. It's almost as if it's intentional. Like, let's just overwhelm the senses with, fear and whatever. I'm not going to get into that. But so for me, it was the mandatory mask. And the ironic thing is I don't have to wear them, because I don't have to go in the outside world. I checked out of the Matrix a couple years ago. So I don't have to. I'm blessed and fortunate enough, as I said, to be living my best life. So I don't have to go out into the outside world. And I recognize that in and of itself creates kind of a cognitive dissonance maybe with others as I express my freedom. But again, another video, or I'll segue into it. I don't know. This is just free flowing for me. So I had to recognize, I'm like, Michelle, why are you so triggered? Why am I so triggered when I'm not even participating in it? Like, I've already made the decision that I got my groceries online, so I've already adapted my life to where I literally don't have to go out into public, and or I choose not to, to participate in it. And so that in and of itself was triggering, because it's really closed in our world, or my world. It's closed in my world even more. I was already kind of self-isolating and keeping to myself so I could keep in high vibration. And then this sort of threw a ripple into my pond that I had to deal with. So again, okay, so I reflected on it, and I came to the realization that for me, I the one thing I want to say, and if you don't know me, like I meditate all the time. Like that's one of the things that is very obvious in my life right now that I'm supposed to be doing is that tuning in, because I've become a channel, and there's a lot of amazing, amazing, amazing things happening in meditation. The state that we can put ourselves in when we go that deep. But again, that's I guess another video. I could go off on many different tangents, but I'm trying to stay focused on my trigger, and my trigger being the mass, and especially, and then recognizing, why is this triggering me if I don't have to participate in it? And it triggers me like every time I see it. So here's an example: my elderly neighbors, and I recognize, that they're elderly, so they fall into that category of people who really should, be taking some precautions. But, I've seen them drive away in their car together. They live together, they are in each other's space, but in their car, fully masked and fully gloved up. And it's just like watching fear drive by, and it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to see that. Now that example is maybe one that it's like, okay, I get that people should take precaution, but the truth is that they were driving to go pick up their groceries, and they were not going to have very little interaction with somebody, and the person that they were going to have interaction with was also masked and gloved. So my point is that they were in their car and they didn't need to be. So I see the fear taking over in people, and it just breaks my heart. So it's like I had to wrestle with, and when I say triggered, I mean like I felt it, literally felt it, and I could feel my thoughts starting to kind of loop, going, this is crazy, I don't get it, it doesn't make sense to me. And here's why it doesn't make sense to me: because for the last several years, I am very aware of self-healing and taking care of myself. I consider myself healthier now than I've ever been, and I'm 52. And I was on a kind of a downward trajectory about 5 years ago. So I am in magnificent health. And I take care, like I said, I take care of myself. So I'm very aware when something's happening to me. So in other words, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm healthy. I can confidently go out into the world. But, so this is the logic that doesn't make sense to me. Okay, so everybody's masked up, right? And again, no judgment. This is just my opinion. So everybody's masked up. They feel safe behind that. They're like, okay, I got my mask on and I got my gloves on. Okay, so you feel safe behind that mask and gloves. Okay, awesome. That's great. I think you should do that if that helps you feel safe. So if it helps people feel safe, then why are people so triggered and pushing the mask on those of us who don't believe that, or believe that we are healthy? And even if we're not healthy and we're not wearing a mask, again, if you feel safe, why does it matter? So it's in that trigger. It's in that trigger for me that's what doesn't make sense. And that's where I recognize that, like, there's almost no escaping it, because people are stuck on, you must wear a mask. That is what everybody is pushing. And there is a growing and a large number of people who recognize the absurdity behind the mandatory part of it. Yes, there's a virus. I do believe that. But that's about all I believe, to be honest with you. I don't believe the numbers. I don't believe the media. I don't believe any of that. And the truth is, how can anybody, like, I don't know anybody personally who's been affected, but I know there are. And, trigger warning, people are like, are you saying that people aren't dying? Da, da, da. And then the emotion starts again. So, strip out all that shit. I don't know. You're just watching how many people really know somebody who has died. Not, I mean, I'm not saying that people haven't gotten it, like we get the flu every year, but how many of us really know somebody? Not know somebody who knows somebody, but have firsthand knowledge of, I watched this person. And yes, it is occurring. I'm not saying it's not, but I don't believe, it's being blown up. And to not recognize that, I think, is what is really, really frustrating me. Is that I see that people, are just really everybody's got their triggers. So it's either they don't feel safe because they could get the virus. They don't feel safe because other people aren't wearing masks and complying, so that set them off. Racism and all the isms are going crazy right now. I mean, pick a trigger. I mean, shit. There's one for, I think I posted this on Instagram the other day. I mean, there's a flavor for everyone. What is it? Is it racism? Is it inequality? Is it you're stealing my land? Is it we're all stolen? I mean, big pharma, there's literally a trigger. These times are definitely, I guess what I'm saying is, how can people not see the enormity of what's going on and just think that it's just this little thing? Because all of these, I mean, it's like it's rolling out in such a big wave. You can't go anywhere anymore without seeing everybody is just literally armoring up. And there might be 100 different reasons why. I have gone down several rabbit holes. I don't watch the mainstream media. I spend my time watching some YouTube alternative stuff, and even recently have really, and that's part of why I think I'm making this video too, is because even recently it's like, even there's too much alternative because it's everywhere. Even in the esoteric and spiritual community that I've been focused on, it's there too. It's penetrating everywhere. So more and more, I feel my world just closing in. I mean, even just the minimal things that I was doing just a few months ago, I can't even do and enjoy because it feels so restricting. And it feels like it's just dark and heavy. I mean, like I said, even in the YouTube videos, even in the community that I was watching. So it's literally like everything in my world is pointing to continually turn in. And therein lies my salvation and where I've been spending my time. And the reason I still am emanating love and gratitude and joy is solely because of the time that I spend inward. Because it has evolved into a full-blown experience. It's not just sitting there. And I know a lot of people think that, but I believe that the turning inward in meditation is really about to explode, because people are tuning into the energies and the frequencies when I cleared out all the channel. In other words, there's no idle chatter going on in here. I'm focused on my breathing. So there's experiences going on. There's downloads of absolute and sheer bliss. I've made some videos where, that expression comes through, and it's uncontrollable. I mean, it is literally me tapping into the frequencies that I've laid the foundation for over these last couple years by making myself, my well-being, my priority. Has paid off. It's like I'm able to stay in this light. So hence the reason I'm doing this video is because everything recently is kind of just, I recognized it was pulling me back down, and I had been working so hard to like maintain. So in the beginning, I would like, my frequency was very high during meditation, and then it would kind of drop. And then as I increased my time, I recognized that I could stay in the higher frequencies, not just in meditation, but, almost all the time. And so that's what that systematic ascension, the ascension path is recognizing frequencies go up and they go down. And it's practice. I mean, it's a spiritual, intentional practice of raising the vibration. So I guess I'm like just at this place where I'm just sharing this for me. I'm just venting because I needed to. The world is just, my world is, it looks crazy on the outside, but the inside is amazing. It's amazing. So I feel like this cosmic soul surfer where, I'm learning this balance, and I recognize why I am at this place right now, because it has kind of been predestined, or it is part of my purpose to have worked for and achieved sort of this higher frequency, so that, because that's my purpose. I feel like I'm holding that, and I know intuitively, and I'm being told also externally by other sources, that that has a very profound effect that we can't even wrap our brain around, that when many of us find our light and find that channel and hold that frequency of love, that it really does reverberate throughout, not only our own community, but really throughout the world. So it's kind of like my version of being of service to others, but not being out in it. Like, this is me going, okay, guys, I'm praying and I'm meditating for humanity and myself, myself and humanity, to kind of bring us into this light. And I know it's working, and I believe that wholeheartedly. And I know with 100% certainty in my heart, in my body, in my resonance, that what is coming is, light, and it's glorious, and that this is really just a show playing itself out. I mean, I've tapped into these energies. I've tapped into this knowing and this connection, and gotten guidance. And I recognize that not a lot of people understand that, but it's okay. It's part of the journey, but it's also recognizing that cognitive dissonance along the way. And when I say cognitive dissonance, it's sort of like believing two conflicting things. So my example with the cognitive dissonance and the masks, and I think I just wanted to circle back to that, was that I believe wholeheartedly that those that are most triggered with us not wearing masks are experiencing cognitive dissonance, meaning that either their job or their state is requiring them, they have to in their life. In other words, their reality, they have to wear a mask. But perhaps deep down inside, they know that they don't want to, or that it's insane. But in order to really kind of maintain, sort of their own status quo of, kind of equilibrium or homeostasis in them, uh, you know, cognitive resonance versus dissonance, it's kind of can't happen. So I personally believe that those that are projecting the most and onto, those of us not wearing a mask are experiencing cognitive dissonance, because I believe that there's a lot of intelligent people walking around that are behind masks right now, and they have convinced themselves why they're doing it. I don't believe in it, but I'm doing it for my neighbors. I'm doing it for the elderly. I'm doing it for X, Y, and Z. And my perspective is, I get it, but to me that's a rationalization, because my elderly neighbors asked me if I would wear a mask, and I said, please mask up when we talk. I understand that. I respect that. But if I won't do it for the government, I won't do it for you. So I was buying them groceries, and, they got so scared that I just said, how about I teach you how to do it online? And they let me know the other day that it worked great, and they're doing very well. and so their needs are met, and I didn't feel the need to compromise. So, but to me, that's kind of like that manipulation. I can't be pulled into it anymore. I don't have, that's not my operating system. My operating system is what resonates with me. And I was trying to help them out, and was grocery shopping for them for several months since the quarantine started in March. But once the mandatory mask came, they changed. I mean, despite the fact that I had been in their house and we had been conversing, once it was piped into their news and their governor said, then I just watched them blindly follow the orders. And it's like, no, they asked me, like I said, they asked me, and that's how I started recognizing that this is much deeper. It's not an ego thing. It's not a pride thing. Because if I feel sick, I would very likely have no problem wearing a mask. If there was something wrong with me, and I know many people are saying, well, you don't know, you may be asymptomatic. Nope, I do know. So the asymptomatic thing on this is, I don't believe that either. I think that's just yet another ploy to get compliance, because you have to pull everything from the kitchen sink to throw at us, and they are. Many channels on YouTube are identifying and exposing the mainstream media for the conflicting data and numbers, and it's just like, it's a huge just scare tactic. So like, how can anybody believe it? But that's just me, and I gotta admit, I got to admit that, like I said, my intention at the beginning of this video was, it was for me. So I don't care if it gets any views. No disrespect. I don't mean that. I just mean, whew, it was me. Did this help? Did it kind of help to get it out? Yes, it did. So I think just kind of, doing that for me right now just sort of helps process it and recognize where I'm at, and then come back into alignment, because that's all it's about. For me, it was recognizing that trigger and then putting those tools and those actions that I've learned over the last couple years into practice. It's like, I'm triggered. I gotta center myself. I've got to get this and this in alignment. And when they're in alignment, I feel it reverberate throughout my body. So perhaps this is just what I need to do right now for a little while, is just kind of express where I'm at, and just ride the wave. Because like I said, I really do believe in my heart and in my resonance that that ultimately, whether it's going to be not until next year or relatively soon, I mean, we're coming into a new world. We are coming into a higher consciousness, and a lot of this stuff is just, it's dying and it's crumbling. And maybe that is where I'll pick up my next video, is to just kind of share that perspective that I've learned and what I see is happening, kind of playing itself out. But again, I think the important thing for me right now is to recall and remember to just stay in the moment. And whenever I'm triggered in these moments about the mask, just remember that I'm choosing to not participate. I don't have to, and that people are exactly where they are, and I don't judge, and I hand it over to God, especially in that channel, and know that this will all be exposed. I mean, it will all be exposed, but will it be exposed next month or even next year? I don't think so, but much like 9/11, the nefarious underpinnings of this whole thing will come to light. But I'm glad I vented about my trigger, and even shared a little bit about how I'm dealing with that trigger. So I'm pulling myself away from a little bit from social media. Like, Instagram's the only thing I'm on, other than YouTube. And other than making this video, I've stopped or reduced what I'm watching and viewing. So that's how I'm dealing with my trigger. And the same thing with Instagram. I'm very conscientious about how often I check my phone. I'm very aware that it's very automatic, and it's very hard to get away from that distraction, and even that in and of itself is a trigger. So, I'm just over here recognizing that, wow, a lot's changing, and, I don't want any addictions anymore. So, the technology is my last one that I'm struggling with, and trying to, stay away from it, because other people have, their work or their family or their projects, and I got to find alternative focuses, so that I don't stay in these rabbit holes of seeking information. Now I gotta go back to doing. So right now, my only pull and my only feel about what I'm supposed to be doing really is turning inward and keeping the high frequency, because I believe wholeheartedly, and have gotten guidance on that is how I am to best serve myself and everybody else, is to stay in that frequency of love. So thank you if you watched this video. I hope it helped, and if it didn't, it was, at least it didn't do any harm. So be well, take care of yourself, express yourself, and be brave. You don't have to go along. This is a time of bravery, so we're all being brave. I might even name this bravery du jour. Every single day is something different, and every single day we have to each kind of take a new step into the unknown courageously. So bravery du jour. Be well. Love you guys.